What's going on, everybody? My name is Curci, and I just saw the Mortal Kombat movie, and now I want to talk about it. Before we get started, going to address the obvious. No more giant white tarp. It is gone. Now we have a little bit of a set. It's a work in progress. It might shift around. I also plan on painting the walls at some point, so this wall color, actually, where is it? That right there, that won't be there for long. Doing a little bit of renovation, just shifting things around. I actually might sound a little bit echoey because I moved all the furniture that was in this room out of this room. We'll be moving new furniture in, and until that happens, I'm going to sound a little echoey. And before I actually get into this movie, I would like to remind everybody to please give the video a like. It helps out tremendously. I would really appreciate it. Consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified of all new video uploads. Share the video with your friends. Let them know. And also, if you've seen Mortal Kombat and you have opinions on it, comment below what you think. So with all that said, let's get into it. Here's the thing. I do a lot of video game content related stuff. I do dip into movies a few times, but really my forte is video games. It has been video games and it probably always will be video games. Now, the cool thing is that Mortal Kombat did begin as a video game franchise that they have turned into a movie. They've done that before. But the thing that I've always said, why have they never made a Mortal Kombat movie that's rated R and having the gory, brutal fatalities? Well, now we have that movie. Now, here's the thing with Mortal Kombat is that there are a crap ton of games that you can play. I think they just came out with Mortal Kombat 11 a couple years ago, but there is so much lore in the Mortal Kombat universe. But then it weighs the option of, okay, well, what do we really want? Do we want to make the fight choreography and the gore the most important thing, or do we want the story to be most important? Because if you watch Godzilla vs. Kong, the same question comes up. Do we want to prioritize the fights between Godzilla and Kong, or do we want to prioritize the story? And so in that, I think you have to understand the kind of movie you're making. Everything's gonna have to have some degree of a story, which is why I always get floored whenever people talk about the human stuff, or there's too much human stuff. And I'm like, I understand that all you want to do is see Godzilla fight things, but you need some sort of human element. You can't just watch 2 hours of Godzilla fighting something because then you're gonna get bored. So there needs to be something that breaks it up. So there is a marriage between action beats and story beats, and this movie attempts it. I don't really think it does it that well. It's one of those things where it really doesn't master anything. There's some cool stuff, but not a ton of it. This movie starts off with a really cool sequence where you have Hanzo, who is part of the Shirai Ryu, who is also Scorpion, who is there with his family, and then he gets attacked by the Lin Kuei, led by Bi-Han, who ends up becoming Sub-Zero. But Sub-Zero comes in, he attacks Scorpion. So you think that from the opening that this movie gives you, that it's going to be very much a rivalry between Sub-Zero and Scorpion, and that's going to be the center, with Mortal Kombat kind of as the backdrop, where this tournament is starting up, and then you have these two guys meet in the tournament as their big climactic battle, but mainly it's the build-up between these two and their rivalry. However, that's not what happens. Instead, the movie gives you this opening, and then it steers left, and now it's just about Earthrealm getting its champions for Mortal Kombat, while Outworld is also collecting their champions, but then also trying to assassinate Earthrealm's champions, which is apparently against the rules, but nobody cares about the rules. This movie sets up that there are rules of engagement between these two realms. You have Outworld, you have Earthrealm, and Outworld wants to invade Earthrealm, but they have to accumulate a certain number of Mortal Kombat victories. They have 9 straight wins, and they need one more for the gods allow them to invade Earthrealm, which is weird because it's like, why is that a rule? But at the same time, it sets up rules like the two champions cannot engage in combat, or one cannot kill the other until the Mortal Kombat tournament, yet they do it anyway. So it's like the movie sets up its own rules, then immediately breaks them. If you're gonna have these characters fight, why create a rule that says they can't fight if you're just gonna ignore it anyway? Just take that out. Now, the characters of this movie are hit and miss. Some of them are good, some of them are not great. First one we'll talk about is the main character, Cole, who plays a new character that I don't believe exists in the Mortal Kombat games, which is weird because it's like, if you look back on the cast of characters that Mortal Kombat has, there are a crap ton that you can choose from, and so it becomes a question of who is this Cole guy going to eventually be? I thought for a moment, I was like, oh, he's going to become Liu Kang, and it's like, no, nope, there's Liu Kang, and then it's like, oh, he's going to be Scorpion, it's like, nope, there's Scorpion. Also, in the beginning of the movie, we had already introduced Scorpion, so I was like, is Scorpion a mantle that gets passed down, like Hanzo was the original, and now Cole becomes the next one? Nope, he's a completely new character. See, in my opinion, I was like, this movie should have starred Liu Kang, because really that's kind of what the Mortal Kombat games have done, is that Liu Kang kind of is the chosen one, like he's the Anakin Skywalker of Mortal Kombat. I was gonna say he doesn't turn to the dark side, but he kind of does in the games at one point. But Cole is kind of a weak protagonist. He's not an original character from the games, and his performance isn't that great. He's not the strongest thing in the movie, and having the central character for your movie not be the strongest element is not good. Also, speaking of characters that aren't great. Liu Kang and Kung Lao, also not great. Like, just flat characters. And there are a couple, more than a couple, of villains that they introduce from the Outworld roster. They either have no lines, they just show up, they're there, and they're only there to get killed. And then there are some that do have lines, and it's like, I mean, I know you from the game, I know who you are, but ultimately I'm like, I don't, It's Cabal. Cabal is one of the characters where it was like, every time he spoke, I was like, I think they could have done better with his performance. I don't know. Now, on the Earthrealm side, you have Sonya Blade, you have Jax, you have Kano, and I think that for the most part, they all work. They're pretty good. Because the thing in this movie is that everybody has a mark, which is sort of like your invitation. You've been chosen to be part of the Mortal Kombat tournament, except for Sonya Blade. Sonya Blade is one of the characters that are there that does not have a mark, and so now she has this desire to be part of this, but she doesn't have the mark, and so, you know, it kind of creates a little bit of conflict. Where she wants to train, she wants to be with the Earthrealm champions, but she doesn't have an invitation. But then you also have Jax, who loses his arms, and so he's becoming accustomed to his robot arms. You have Kano, who actually, one of the shining things in this movie is Kano. His performance is so on point. It's just a really good performance. I actually enjoyed him probably the most. And it's a good interpretation of what that character is. On the Outworld side, you also have Melina, you have Sub-Zero, and he's actually, for the most part, the bad guy of the movie. But above him is Shang-Tsung, who is the sorcerer that rules Outworld. And I just think that the movie is a bit of a mess because Sub-Zero, I think, works as your villain character. And even though he's taking orders from Shang-Tsung, who's the main baddie here? Is it Shang-Tsung? Is it Sub-Zero? And so I think this movie, in the most part, ends up becoming a bit of a mess in terms of its plot, because it's like, okay, first we're gonna set up this rivalry between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Now that that's done, we're gonna completely ignore that, and we're gonna go and focus on this Cole character who is trying to recognize his destiny as being an Earthrealm chosen champion, while also finding the rest of the champions and then training to be ready for Mortal Kombat. But oh wait, here's Outworld trying to kill the Earthrealm champions before the tournament, which is apparently not allowed, but who cares? We're just going to ignore the rules. And at the same time, we have Sub-Zero being a great villain, but above him is Shang-Tsung, and will he get involved? Will we see him in action? We don't know. The answer is no. He doesn't really. I mean, he does do something, but feel like this movie was more set up for something else, because also the Mortal Kombat tournament, it doesn't happen in this movie. It's build up and training for the tournament that will eventually happen. It's just not going to happen now. And I understand that the Mortal Kombat games, not every single one has a Mortal Kombat tournament, but still, I feel like at least the first movie should touch on the tournament, and then every other movie touches on some of the extra stuff that they get into. So does the action pan out? Is this just a really good action movie with great fights and great gore? So here's the thing, is that I never felt like while watching this movie that the fight sequences were anything truly eye-popping. There were a lot of them, there were a lot of action beats, but I never really watched this and saw it as something that was really amazing. You kind of hope that the fight sequences would just be really well choreographed, really well done. They would bring in some martial arts experts that would offer their inspiration and training to the actors, where they're like, all right, you're gonna do this, and we're gonna make the action really good. And at the end of all this action, we're gonna have some really crazy good fatalities, and there are some really good fatalities. I just think that some of the fight sequences just could have been a lot better. Don't forget that Mortal Kombat's a fighting game, so the fights have got to be good, and I felt like the fights weren't that great. Like, stand out from everything else. If you're going to do this, do it better than most other people have. Will it get a sequel? I don't know. I kind of hope it does, because I kind of want to see what they do next, and I hope they look at this one and they're like, okay, well, what did we do wrong? Now let's make it better. Anyway, I think this movie was decent enough. I had fun with it in certain areas, though I think that the story could have been a lot better. Your central character could have been way better. I feel like the movie should have focused more on the Sub-Zero Scorpion storyline. Some of the fight choreography could have been a lot better. Some of the fatalities were pretty good, but also at the same time, I wish that they had set up different characters better. Some of the characters are pretty cheesy. Some really work, some really don't. I think this movie misses more than it hits, so overall, I wouldn't say you need to drop everything to watch it right away. I mean, it's on HBO Max, so if you have HBO Max, you might just want to pop it on one day and be like, what's this about? I don't know if it's worth going to the movies during a pandemic. Not a must-see. I'm glad that they did the rated R Mortal Kombat with the fatalities, but now let's do it and make it actually a pretty decent movie. Because this movie's, it's a movie. It's a movie. It's a movie that they made. Anyway, guys, what did you think of the Mortal Kombat movie? Comment below what you thought of it. Also, consider giving this video a like. It would help me out tremendously. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of all new video uploads. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.